What up, y'all? Today we are going to watch and react to Peter Schiff being interviewed by Mikhaila Peterson, the meat queen. This should be interesting. It seems like Peter Schiff's on a tear right now, doing lots of interviews about Bitcoin, even though he knows nothing about it. Let's see what's going on here.
Welcome to episode 100.
Holy shit! Mikhaila Peterson's getting some work done. Damn, girl.
Podcast. In this opposing views style episode, I talked about Bitcoin and gold and economics with Peter Schiff and Robert Breedlove. Bitcoin. You have people obsessed with it, with all their life savings in it, like one of my guests, and you have people who think the entire thing is a scam. Either way, it's a hot topic. You can go online right now and put your life savings into Bitcoin or Ethereum, the platform used for purchasing NFTs, or a coin that's literally a meme. Your life could change.
So right now, NFTs are huge with the normies and with all the noobs. NFTs right now are probably the least interesting thing about the crypto space, but they're getting the most attention from... it's hard to explain. The NFTs that are being pitched right now are worthless. These art coins and art protocols, they aren't worth anything. And it's a bubble that's going to burst quite largely. NFTs should be used for things like car titles, land deeds, things where you only want one of them and you want them transferable and secure. Using NFTs for some dude's art and trying to get $10,000 for it, it's kind of reminds me of the first wave of altcoins that came out back in the early, or around 2012, 2013. The first round of altcoins that came out were all absolute jokes. They were complete garbage, and we all lost a lot of money on them. These NFTs, these art NFTs, it's going to go the same way. But I can't believe how many normies I see talking about crypto, but only talking about NFTs. And then when you listen to them for a while, they don't get it at all. It's pretty funny, but it's funny that that's one of the only things she brought up.
Change overnight, provided Elon Musk tweets the right thing. My first guest, Peter Schiff, isn't the biggest...
Elon Musk has nothing to do with the markets.
...fan of cryptos, to say the least. Schiff is an American economist, stockbroker, and author famous for predicting economic shifts or events like the mortgage meltdown. He's a regular guest on national news and host of the Peter Schiff Show podcast. For the second half, I had Robert Breedlove on. Robert Breedlove is a crypto enthusiast, strongly believes in cryptos, Bitcoin being his favorite. He's also an entrepreneur, philosopher, and the host of the What is Money show, where he has deep discussions with prominent thinkers from around the world. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and let me know what you think about Bitcoin versus gold in the comments below. Peter Schiff, welcome to my podcast.
Well, thanks, Mikhaila, for inviting me on your podcast.
This is going to be good. Before we get started, can you give a brief background about who you are and what it is you do for anyone?
Peter's got a shit-eating grin.
And not familiar
Duper's delight
with your work.
Peter Schiff is a outspoken opponent of cryptocurrency. But the thing is, he knows he's wrong, but he is so famous because he's been a opponent of Facebook, of crypto, that he's got to keep it going, because he's wrong and can't be seen as being wrong because he's an investor and people depend on him to invest. They depend on they trust his word with investments and stuff like that. So he's simply had to at some point he realized he was wrong about crypto, but his ego and pride You got people like Sanjay Gupta, who was talking shit about weed for years and then actually came out and was like, look, I was wrong. And that was mind-boggling to see someone do that. Peter Schiff, if Peter Schiff did that, he would gain the respect of millions of people, millions and millions of people. And, it would probably be the best thing for his career. But he's not letting it go. And now he's on this tear where he's doing all these interviews, basically misinforming people about crypto.
Well, for a living,
And you can see his duper's delight on his face in the beginning of that segment.
I'm mainly an asset manager. So I have a company, Euro Pacific Asset Management. That is my main business. So I have clients that entrust their portfolios with me, and I manage the money. What's, I guess, unique about the way my approach versus, let's say, the standard asset manager is I have a very specific worldview that really runs counter to the mainstream narrative. For years, I have been pointing out some serious structural problems that underlie the U.S. economy. This understanding led me to forecast the 2008 financial crisis. I did that very vocally on cable news in a book that I wrote, Crash Proof, How to Profit from the Coming Economic Collapse. It led me to position myself and some clients short the subprime market. Prior to the collapse in 2008, I understood a lot of the problems that the Fed was creating with its monetary policy that not only
forecasting the economy tanking when it did wasn't that impressive. It's kind of like people giving what's the guy Snowden so much respect because he told us about how collateral damage was happening in the war and stuff. Like, we fucking knew that already. We knew fiat was a joke. We knew the financial crisis was coming. You didn't do that much. You just had a large platform you did it from, so you were able to claim like you informed everybody when everyone was in the dark.
Really facilitated the mistakes
Peter Schiff is rich, and that's why he's as big as he is.
that were being made on the fiscal side.
Not because he can see the future or has a crystal ball that he could look into and he can see the future of economics.
But created even bigger.
Because if he did, he wouldn't be on this side of history when it comes to cryptocurrency.
Mistakes struck.
Peter Schiff is whenever Peter Schiff starts coming out, it's funny, there's an actual website about it where they have a timeline and it shows every time Peter Schiff came out into public and said Bitcoin was going to disappear, there was always a massive run-up right after. He's always been wrong about crypto. And but like I said, he just can't admit to being wrong because his whole job existence, his life is because he's right.
Actually, for the U.S. economy. And I have been forecasting that ultimately we would go through a currency crisis, which I think we are really on the cusp of now because we're finally starting to see the manifestations of the inflation that the Fed has unleashed over the last decade really starting to show up in a very big way. Initially, of course, the mainstream that doesn't understand what's happening is dismissing it. But just the way they dismiss the problems leading up to the financial crisis, they're dismissing the even greater problems now. So I incorporate this view into my strategy for managing money. I also used to have a gold company, Schiff Gold, which I now work with just I help promote it, and I have a lot of involvement.
Oh, so what you're saying is you're trying to sell something here. And we should listen to you about crypto and invest only in gold.
In the type of products.
So you're a salesman, is what you're saying.
Sold there and their approach to selling. Because I really sold off the company when I moved to Puerto Rico a few years ago. And so I just operate my businesses now from here. But I also have my own podcast, which actually had its roots in my radio show. I did a daily radio show after my unsuccessful Senate campaign back in 2010. I started to do the radio show, ultimately didn't have enough time to commit to that 2-hour show 5 days a week. Eventually turned it into the Peter Schiff Show podcast. So I've cultivated an audience there. I talk a lot about economics, finance, politics, put a free market, libertarian, Austrian economics spin on everything, and generally.
But crypto's bad.
No, I think what I'm doing on my podcast is giving people a more accurate view of what's going on than what they're getting from conventional media sources, which again still don't really appreciate the underlying problems, what the cause is, or what they ultimately portend.
Okay, so what is going on? Are we in a state of inflation, like rapid inflation? Is that what we're seeing and people just aren't aware?
Well, the Fed has been inflating for decades, but particularly ever since Alan Greenspan showed up, he really wrote the playbook that his predecessors have been following. But we just kind of moved from bubble to bubble, and we're afraid of allowing market forces to restructure the economy in the way that it needs to be restructured, because the process would involve some pain, because asset prices would fall, loans would default, investors would lose money, workers would lose jobs. But a lot of this would be temporary, because the workers who would lose jobs, they would lose the wrong jobs so they can get the right jobs, because right now government monetary policy is keeping resources misallocated, which includes labor. And so you're seeing that now, because there's a shortage of pretty much everything. And that's because we're not focusing our resources, including labor, on producing the things that we actually consume. Because of the Fed, so much of the investment is going into things that we don't really need. It's a bunch of nonsense. A lot of the companies that are getting financing are not actually producing goods and services that we need now. They're just kind of harebrained schemes about what might happen in the future. But since money is so cheap, a lot of these malinvestments are being made, and that would include everything that's going on with cryptocurrencies. We've got over 12,000 cryptocurrencies. There's new cryptocurrencies being created every day. There's a lot of real resources, energy, manpower being used to basically conjure these things into existence. But in the meantime, all of those resources and energy could have been used making actual things. But we're not doing that.
Do you not believe in software, Peter Schiff?
We're not, planting new farm acreage. We're not, opening up new mines.
We're making new software programs that are going to make life more efficient. You don't think that's a thing?
And producing the resources that the world actually needs.
The world needs software that makes the world run more efficient. No?
We're just creating these cryptocurrencies that nobody needs.
Nobody needs? What are you saying, bro? Are you gonna articulate why you're saying these things? Or are you just gonna say a bunch of shit because no one watching Mikhaila Peterson's channel has enough brain cells to understand what's going on themselves?
But a lot of people want them because they think if they just buy them, they're going to get rich.
I think he knows that everyone on Mikhaila's channel is in ketosis, and they're not running off that many brain cells. The high-fat diet that Mikhaila espouses, the carnivore diet or keto, it blocks oxygen from getting into your blood cells and being delivered to your brain. So I think Peter knows, and he's just going to use all these basically one-line arguments that anyone could use with their friends against crypto.
Rich, and they'll be able to buy all the products that nobody's making. And so meanwhile, the stuff that we're not making is scarcer and scarcer, and we have more and more money to buy it.
What stuff are you talking? You sound like, wow.
So the prices are just
smart businessman
going ballistic. And
we're not making this stuff because so this stuff is getting more scarce and
people are, again, we're seeing just the cusp of that right now. And the initial reaction is
I wonder if Peter Schiff knows what VeChain is and like understands VeChain's use case. VeChain is basically a ledger that all shipping and receiving, all logistics, all of this type of movement of products around the world is going to be on. Right now, we don't have a ledger like that. We just have several different corporations competing against each other and doing their own thing. Where under the VeChain protocol, VeChain manages all of them to make all the things more efficient. Could possibly make world logistics 20, 30, 40% more efficient? You don't think that's something we need, Peter Schiff? Come on, bro.
As well, just to dismiss it, it's transitory, it's temporary.
You don't think that baking products, financial products, you don't think that getting the middleman out of financial services is going to be something that we need as a society? You think we should all keep going to these banks that you say are ruining the world? You don't think that decentralized protocols might be better ways of banking, better, cheaper, more efficient ways of banking?
But
not following your logic, bro.
Oftentimes when you're on the cusp of a major change, very few people are going to recognize that that's actually what's happening. So they're going to try to rationalize it away. For years and years, the Federal Reserve was telling us the problem was there wasn't enough inflation, that their policy goal was actually to create inflation because we were suffering from a lack of inflation, which was all nonsense, the whole time. It was a way that they justified their excessively loose monetary policy, which they were pursuing to keep asset bubbles inflated, and so the U.S. government could keep spending money it didn't have without having to raise taxes. So the Fed was able to supply the money by monetizing the debt. But now those chickens are coming home to roost, again, in a way that very few people really understand.
Okay. So how much of the inflation that's occurring now is because of crypto, or is it because of other things?
Well, the cryptocurrency market is one of the manifestations of that inflation. Okay. It's one of the bubbles that has been inflated by the Fed. Now, certainly...
Man, Michaela has no clue. Crypto causing inflation? No, girlfriend.
Some communities, like where I live in Puerto Rico, I would say that a lot of the crypto money is helping to fuel real estate prices here, as a lot of crypto people are kind of moving here. But, what one person...
That's absolute nonsense. I've lived as an expat. Money is going to those types of countries because people want to leave society, not because crypto
is able to spend is simply what somebody else can't, because all the Bitcoins or all the cryptocurrencies are just a transfer, right? Because the only way you can buy something with your crypto is if you sell your crypto. But that can only happen if somebody...
Unless someone takes crypto, which more and more people do every single day. I've had plenty of transactions when I had my last job. I had plenty of crypto transactions. I don't, what are you talking about?
Somebody else buys it. So somebody who's buying a house in my neighborhood and selling their cryptocurrency is because some other fool bought cryptocurrency and gave them that purchasing power. But now that other person who bought cryptocurrency can't buy something else.
Sure they can, or they can hodl it, which is the main reason to have crypto right now as a long-term investment. You're cherry picking a lot, bro. Like, that's pretty funny, this little mental gymnastics you're doing trying to make it sound like crypto is a bad thing.
Although what is happening now is because of all this cheap money that's sloshing around, there are people who are actually holding their cryptocurrency and spending them too because they're able to borrow money against that cryptocurrency. So to the extent that the crypto community could create money through debt, which is a byproduct of what the Fed is doing, then it is acting to help fuel the inflation because now two people are spending the same crypto. You know, it's just people are borrowing against it.
No, bro. It's not how it works.
But more than it's creating inflation, I think the way the crypto...
Plus, even if that was true, there's not that many people borrowing against their crypto right now. It's a pretty ballsy move. Only people like day traders or very, very, very versed crypto holders are doing things like that. It's not a very popular thing. Plus, they're double collateralized, so you got to put away, you got to give up. You have to give twice as much money. You have to give twice as much crypto as the dollar amount you're getting back. So, you know, Peter just doesn't know this.
Is magnifying the inflation problem.
Oh, horse shit.
Inflation is about creating too much money. And so when you print more money and you have a certain,
Peter Schiff trying to 40% of the dollars that are in circulation on this planet were printed in the last 2 years, and Peter Schiff here is trying to blame it on crypto. What a clown.
The supply of goods and services, you have more money chasing those goods and services. I think the way the cryptocurrency industry is making that worse is by diverting a lot of our scarce resources away from a productive use to the creation of cryptocurrencies. And so in that respect, we're creating all this money to buy products, but then instead of creating the products, we're creating cryptocurrencies. And so
which all have separate and unique use cases, from financial services to all kinds of things. Peter's talking as if cryptocurrencies all do the same thing, like they're all simply a use case of a store of possible transfer of value. I don't know what he's getting at, but it doesn't seem like... I mean, I would think he would really know about crypto at this point, but it seems like he's completely blocked himself off to it because he doesn't know what he's saying and he's not making any sense. And I see what he's trying to do, but he's being dishonest about how he's doing it. Dishonest or simply willfully ignorant.
We have too many cryptocurrencies, but we don't have enough.
Says who? Says who? That's completely arbitrary. Who cares that there's a bunch of cryptos? A lot of these cryptos are going to change the world. So wouldn't you want lots of them? Wouldn't you want like a broad spectrum of new services offered to the people that are decentralized services, where we don't have to deal with some J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild douchebag and beg them for loans and stuff like that? Wouldn't you rather... we have a decentralized option, Peter Schiff?
Stuff, real things that people need and people want. Again,
People want to have banking services that aren't connected to the big banks. People want cheaper products because the bottom line to ship things is lower. People want, what you're saying is that the people don't want a society with less middlemen. Middlemen only raise prices. So what you're saying is completely false.
Wants Bitcoin.
Peter Schiff, who's always been wrong about crypto, literally the laughing stock of the crypto community, could redeem himself with 3 sentences and become far bigger than he is now. But he continues to go up in front of, and do these shows and just show how willfully ignorant he is on the subject when he's supposed to be an expert at all this stuff.
Cryptocurrency. They simply want what they think they can buy in the future when they sell their cryptocurrency.
Are you making blanketing assumptions? You're trying to tell me all crypto carriers don't care about the actual cryptos and just want to make money? It's not true. It's kind of. Possibly, there is some truth to that, but you're saying it as if that is the biggest Achilles heel of crypto, is that no one cares about the actual protocols, which is horseshit. I care about the protocols quite a lot. And a lot of people I know care about the protocols and believe in the use cases of these cryptos.
But the problem is, if we're not making those things, if everybody is just making cryptocurrencies instead of actual things, well, then there's nothing to buy. So all you have with
He keeps saying these things. What does that mean? Things? You mean coins with different use cases? Protocols that have different uses in our lives? Smart contracts? You don't understand the implications of the future because of smart contracts, Peter Schiff? You don't understand that at all, and you don't think that that's something people need? That shit! This dude's completely full of it. And it's funny because I haven't seen his shit in forever, but he still sounds like he's still parroting the same things he's always parroted, and he just simply doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't updated his information. And, you could easily say back in the day, first wave, second wave, altcoins, you could easily back then be like, a lot of these coins are bullshit. And we did say that back in the day. We knew most of those coins would go to zero, and they did. But these days it's different, bro. We have some real quality protocols, and they're amazing. And unless you, research them, you're not going to know that, dude. Come on, man.
Cryptocurrency is a delusion.
And what's funny is that any investor in the world that isn't always telling you to have a broad spectrum of investments in your portfolio is full of shit. So for Peter Schiff to say don't buy any crypto at all, he's just doing anyone who's listening a disservice, and he's not being a very good investment advisor or whatever he calls himself.
You have a bunch of wealth on paper, but you can't actually convert it to real things, because if enough people try to get
things, services, like financial services, you don't think you can pay for financial? You don't think people would want to pay for better financial service? It doesn't. You're not making any sense, and you keep saying things over and over again. Things.
Get out, there'd be nothing there because the price would implode.
What do you think about the places that are using types of cryptocurrency to buy products? I know when I was in Dubai, you could use cryptocurrency to buy products on Amazon. If it was implemented that way, do you think it's feasible?
No, because there's only a few people.
Only a few people? Didn't it? It was 13% of Americans have used cryptocurrency. That's not just a few people, homie.
That actually do that. I mean, the real use case for any cryptocurrency is as a token for gambling. Right? People
what?
Buy a cryptocurrency because they think the price is going to go up. I mean, that's really what's driving the whole thing.
Or they believe in the protocol and the software that it's actually going to be something useful for the future of society.
And, because they're buying it because they think the price is going to go up, they don't want to spend it. They don't want to use it.
What's funny is that he's talking a bunch of shit about Bitcoin. I mean, mostly crypto, but mostly Bitcoin. And when we buy Bitcoin, we know it's not going to go up that much. We don't buy Bitcoin because we know it's going to go through the moon, because it's not. It's the largest cap coin there is, which means it's going to move the least. So Peter Hill is just spouting fallacy after fallacy after blanketing assumption, and he really has no grasp whatsoever on the blockchain industry.
Because otherwise they wouldn't have bought it, unless
Oh, really? Would they not have bought it?
you have.
Then why do people buy Bitcoin when they know that it's not going to return as much as some less important or less valid use case altcoins?
Cryptocurrency. Most people.
Like, you're not even on the level, bro. Like, you don't even understand the basics, but you're out here as an expert advising people not to get involved with it at all, which is really goofy.
They have cryptocurrency, and then they have.
And then the other thing is, why would you get so butthurt? And I can tell you, it's because you're trying to sell something. You're a gold salesman.
Currency. They have a job. They get paid in wages in whatever currency they're earning. They use that to buy things. And if there's something left over,
it's called hedging. Maybe you should look it up.
They buy more crypto because they think the price is going to keep going up. But yeah, you could always have a few people that potentially could use it as a medium of exchange.
A few? A few? Wow. It's funny because, like, he doesn't even know. Like, I could argue for him better than he can argue for himself. I would have brought up gas fees. I would have brought up, like, all kinds of things. But he literally has no clue. He doesn't have his finger on the pulse of anything crypto. So he's just like, he's making a bunch of statements, but none of them are necessarily negative. But when he tries to articulate why, like, he can't, I don't know, it's
but if
boring.
enough people tried to do that, I don't think it would work, because then the price would collapse, and the volatility would also make it impossible to really use it as a unit of account or as a medium of exchange. So it just wouldn't work.
But we have been. Man, this is hilarious.
But yes, if enough people are just holding on to it and never selling it, a few people can transact in it.
A few?
Okay.
Yeah, Michaela has no idea.
What about, I guess the one use I saw for it, for traveling, was because I've been helping my dad run his company, and we're doing wire transfers all the time, and transferring large amounts of money takes time, and there are fees associated with it. And when I've been traveling using crypto, you can just transfer internationally, and there aren't fees associated. There's fees associated with it, but not fees like transferring money in a wire.
Obviously,
so that way.
The cost of a wire.
Good question.
Bank wire can be $50.
And time.
So, a lot of the banks now require that you actually show up in the bank.
Damn, that's not even. That question shouldn't stump him. Being Peter Schiff, he should have an amazing comeback for the question she just asked. And he's like bumbling around in his head trying to find something.
I mean, the reason that a lot of these bank transfers take time, and I know that because I'm also in banking, is because of the government regulations that slow it down and increase the cost. So the actual technological costs of doing a bank wire for a payment should be very, very cheap, and it should be very quick. What slows it down and increases the cost.
She didn't ask you why traditional banks cost so much and take so long. She asked, why is it so much cheaper and easier to use crypto overseas?
Is government.
Yeah, we get it. Government slows things down. So what also slows down these companies is that they're using Bronze Age software. And this is where all the crypto programs come in that Peter Schiff says we don't need. So now he's arguing for a system that is slow and expensive. And he's arguing that it's better than the cheaper, fast crypto that's the future, that isn't a software from the 80s.
Regulation. And to the extent that
he's answering a question she didn't ask, and he's just answering with a bunch of word salad that's going to make it seem like he said something smart, and all these keto people on Michaela's page aren't going to get it.
Cheaper to transfer crypto is because the crypto is not subject to those regulations, but that is all going to change. I mean, a lot more regulation is coming.
If regulation comes, it's not going to slow the blockchain down. Regulators can't grab the blockchain and slow it down.
And it is going to get a lot more expensive.
You don't know that. You don't know shit.
And a lot slower.
You're making assumptions like you have a crystal ball, but you don't. Because if you had a crystal ball would have told you to buy Bitcoin back when it was 5 cents, and you didn't do that.
To transfer.
If you had a crystal ball, you would have seen that you would have made billions of dollars by making that move, but you didn't do that. You just decided to be a hater, and then you got your ego attached to it, and here we are now. You're using arguments from 2012, that aren't even valid, and you're on a show with someone who doesn't know crypto, and you're on a show that's supposed to be a debate about opposing views, but the guy with the opposing view isn't in the room with you. So I assume you told Michaela you didn't want to get in a one-on-one debate with a crypto head because you'd get smoked. You'd get laughed at. You'd look like a fool. So I guarantee Peter Schiff told Michaela Peterson she didn't want to sit with this other dude because she'd get smoked. Dude would get smoked. He's just spouting nonsense word salad.
For crypto, once government starts applying all of the KYC and AML requirements.
We have KYC already, bro.
To those transactions. I mean, that was kind of...
It's already done. It's 2021, November 9th you did this. We've had KYC for years.
The advantage it had is that...
And KYC doesn't slow crypto transactions down, and KYC doesn't raise the fees on crypto transactions. He's not even making any sense.
It didn't have all...
KYC is how you prove to an exchange that you are who you are and that you're allowed to be having a bank account-ish, and that the credit cards and debit cards that you connect to it are yours. Post 9/11, you got to do that for everything. What do you mean implementing KYC? You're just like throwing word salad out. It's super funny.
But then, of course, the regulation comes. It's you just have a moment of time where you're kind of under the radar. But that's why, in some respects, a Bitcoin is a victim of its own success, because when it was, under the radar and, there wasn't a lot of attention by the regulators, but now all of a sudden it's all over the place. So the regulations are going to be there. That is going to...
It's also gotten the attention of billions of people worldwide, Peter Schiff. Entire countries are adopting it as their currency. You're super funny how you cherry pick and how you're using your sentences and how it is just fucking hilarious.
Dramatically of working with it. But the real problem though with Bitcoin is not the speed or the cost of you giving me your Bitcoin or me giving my Bitcoin to somebody else. It's what happens to that Bitcoin, while I own it, or before I transfer it. It's the risk that
it goes up. Bitcoin's only going up, Peter Schiff. So you think it's risky to hold an asset that's only going up? And instead we should buy your gold that's been flatlining, or silver that's tanked? You, Peter Schiff, convinced me to buy silver back in 2012 when it was $38. You dipshit. If I bought Bitcoin back then with that money, I'd have millions right now. But your goofy ass said that silver was going to be skyrocketing
any minute,
and you were wrong.
The market value of that Bitcoin can implode. So
When does that ever happen? Implode? Bitcoin always goes up, bro. Look at the chart. Look at the chart. Look at the entire chart of Bitcoin. It only goes up.
That's what really increases the cost, is the risk to the owner of what happens to their Bitcoin.
And then you aren't going to tell people about stable coins, are you? How you can easily, in 2 seconds, if the price starts imploding, you can in 2 seconds switch that Bitcoin into a stable coin, which stops the price. You're just lying to people, dude.
You know, because it's like
Dishonest old man who know you're on your way out because you've dug yourself too much of a hole through this whole crypto thing. You've lost way too many people's respect, and every day that crypto gets bigger, you lose more respect of more people continuing this little mission you're on to try and do something against crypto.
that the game, you know, musical chairs. I mean, what if the music stops and, you know, you still have Bitcoin? And
Then you hold on to it, and the next bull cycle that comes up after the next halvening event, you'll be paid back way more. Like, what do you mean? Like, you understand cycles. You're a stock guy, right? Like, you're acting like you don't know how this works.
then the just price implodes. I mean, nobody worries about it when the price is going up and everybody's excited.
Oh, really? No one's worrying about it? What are you saying, dude?
Because they think it's going to keep going up forever, and, you know, people got laser beams
Really?
on their eyes.
Hell yeah!
You know, it's going to go to 100.
Laser beam eyes, bitch.
100,000 any day, and then it's going to go to 1 million. But what happens
Eventually it will, Mr. Shift. Eventually it will.
when the bottom drops out?
You hold and you buy more. You reaccumulate. You know this. Dips are for reaccumulating. Oh no! My cat's gonna throw up. Come here, Steve. Oh. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, jeez. My cat's got a bad stomach. Sometimes he pukes. But anyway, so yeah, Mr. Schiff, good lord.
And, you know, Bitcoin is dropping, rather consistently.
What?
You know, it's too risky to have.
Look at him lying. Look at his face. He doesn't seem like he prepared at all for this. He's not even on a show with someone who's being combative with him.
Have any real, value stored there, because it could evaporate, and so ultimately that's going to be the reason that it's not going to work as.
What? Man. Peter Schiff.
A method of transferring money is going to be because of the tremendous amount of risk to the parties that are involved of how much value Bitcoin can lose while you're waiting to transfer.
But Bitcoin goes up more than it goes down, so how do you explain this?
For it, or once you receive it, before you get a chance to get rid of it, there could be a big drop in value.
You can get rid of it instantly, Peter Schiff.
And that loss, dwarfs the cost of transferring, a fiat currency around.
What? You don't think that the bottom can drop out of the dollar? What are you talking about, dude? It's funny because crypto's basically set up just like the stock market and the dollar, like all this stuff. So that for him to just act completely ignorant of that is just hysterical. The dollar has every chance that crypto has of tanking. Yeah, this girl has no idea what she's listening to.
Okay, that seems fair.
That seems fair.
What do you think about the use of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies for countries with an unstable dollar?
Well, you mean like El Salvador?
Oh, look at all those smirks. He hates this question because it's something he can't answer.
I mean, El Salvador doesn't even issue its own currency, which isn't, necessarily a problem. It could be a benefit. I mean, now they use the U.S. dollar And I think the dollar is preferable than trying to use Bitcoin. I mean, the
Why?
dollar's got a lot of flaws. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the dollar either, but it works a lot better than Bitcoin.
What? The dollar works a lot better than Bitcoin? The dollar just tanked far more than Bitcoin has ever tanked.
As a medium of exchange or as a unit of account.
Why?
As
You keep saying that over and over again, but you haven't given a very good reason.
a store of value, I mean, I think as a long-term
He's
store
not answering her question.
of value, the dollar doesn't work either. Neither does Bitcoin.
Venezuela using crypto is good for Bitcoin. That's the answer to that question.
But over a short window of time, an hour, a week, a month, I think it's more reliable than Bitcoin. And so it's certainly easier to use. But look, what countries should do if they want a sound monetary system, we have one. It's gold. I mean, gold has functioned as a monetary medium for thousands of years.
This is something that gold people say all the time, which is a fallacy. It's not a real argument. Just because we've done something in the past for years doesn't mean we should keep doing it or that it was ever a good idea. We've been at war for decades and decades and decades. Does that mean we should continue because we've been doing it forever? It's not an argument. Like, gold is obsolete. That's why no one uses it.
Does a very good job of money.
Does it? Because gold and silver are the most counterfeited things on the planet. And unless you carry around an assayer with a lot of expensive equipment, you can't trade it for anything because you might get ripped off. The gold that someone's trying to trade with you or the silver could be completely bullshit. There are some ways you can test it, but those aren't always foolproof. And without a full assayer, you don't know what you're trading for. So how do you explain that that's better than having Bitcoin, which self-verifies itself every 10 seconds?
And once you
Which isn't tangible, therefore it can't be taken from you. You don't have to worry about transferring it. It's not heavy.
The gold standard, that doesn't mean that everybody has to lug around gold bars. You can have money
Well, that's what you're saying ultimately, Peter Schiff.
substitutes, which are paper currencies that are backed
Which are worthless.
by gold. You can even have a digital currency.
Oh, you can? Can we? Can we have that, Mr. Schiff? Peter Schiff all of a sudden doesn't understand central banking. And doesn't understand that if you try and do something like this, you'll get wiped off the planet.
That is backed by the same gold that have all the efficiencies, of cryptocurrencies without any of the problems, without the volatility and with the reliability.
You don't think there's volatility with the dollar?
Of knowing that you have something that's going to maintain its value over time. So that's
The dollar's going to maintain its value over time?
what countries should be looking at. They shouldn't be sidetracked into this, crypto craze. But obviously, I
Yeah, people should use newspapers. They shouldn't get into this internet bullshit.
think they get pushed there because there are a lot of people in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that have a vested interest in trying to get others to adopt it.
Really, Peter? You're here selling gold. You're here representing a company that sells gold, and you're telling everyone crypto's terrible and that they should use gold. But what's wrong with crypto is there are too many people involved that want people to get involved in crypto. Like, well, you're
that's the
walking contradiction, dude.
Of this game that they're playing, right? It's a pyramid scheme, Ponzi. You need more people
You want equity without doing equity, bro. Like, you're not...
to come in to
You're debunking yourself with every word.
the price of Bitcoin. I mean, if you want to get out, right? If you're one of these Bitcoin billionaires, but you actually want to do things with your billions, you want to acquire other things. You just don't want to have your billions all in Bitcoin or Ether or whatever your currency is. You want to buy real estate. You want to buy, a private plane and a yacht, and you want to do all the things that the rich people do, right? You need
Why would you want to do that? For one, I think most people that are involved that get into crypto and make millions off of it, they don't see it as a problem, Peter Schiff, that they can't simply cash out billions of dollars at one time. They're pretty happy that they have that value, they have that money, and if we have to jump through some hoops to turn it into dollars when we have to turn it into dollars, it's not that big of a deal, because we're rich! So, and as every minute goes by, more and more people are willing to take that Bitcoin. So, you're just not giving a very good argument, dude.
Market for your Bitcoin. You need somebody to buy. That's why they're really interested in getting institutions, because there's not that many.
Getting institutions? Institutions are involved, bro. All the major banks are getting involved. You're a fucking dinosaur, dude. You're a straight up dinosaur, and you're refusing to progress with technology. And it's really funny.
Individuals really that can write the big checks where you can get the volume. So they're trying to get institutions or countries to believe in this nonsense so that they'll buy Bitcoin.
Why is it nonsense?
So that they can sell theirs.
It's no different from the markets you're involved in.
Right? That's what you have to do. But
it's just simply new.
The people who are buying off these whales, they're going to have to find even bigger fools with even deeper pockets willing to buy their Bitcoin, because
that's how it works, dude.
That's how this thing works. You always have to find another buyer to come in, because as I said earlier, nobody wants Bitcoin, right? Because you can't do anything with.
Nobody wants Bitcoin.
You can't.
That's why it's being bought faster than it's being mined.
Eat your.
That's why it's the number one asset on the planet.
Bitcoin, you can't.
Because no one wants it, according to Peter Schiff.
Plug your computer into it and power it. You can't, pour it into your car and drive it. It's not a.
But you can buy gas with it, which you can pour into your car and drive with it. Why are you using double talk? Like, you're literally trying to be deceptive.
A commodity that has any actual use, and it's not a good or service. I mean, people say, well, no.
It absolutely is a service.
Nobody wants gold. I hear all that all the time from the Bitcoiners. Sure they do. People want gold for all sorts of things. I mean.
For what?
It's the most valuable metal in the world. I mean, it's used in all sorts of industries, apart from jewelry, which is obvious.
Okay, well, people don't need it if they're not in that industry, Peter Schiff. My God. This is really bad.
It's not an accident that we make jewelry out of gold. Jewelry is made out of gold because it's better when it's made out of gold. It works better. It lasts longer. But it's a great conductor of electricity.
It lasts longer? Gold is softer than. I'm not even.
And there are a lot of things that gold can be used for, in medicine and, not just dentistry, but actual medicine. I mean, people ingest gold. I mean, it does stuff. And they use it in aerospace.
Bitcoin is bad because people eat gold, Peter Schiff says.
Space and all sorts of things. And even if you don't use the gold yourself.
Aerospace. Space? So we know there's no gold going there.
Somebody else will use it in the future. That is the beauty of gold. Because if I don't need the gold today, I can hold on to it, and somebody else can use it in the future, because while I'm holding it, it doesn't lose any of its properties. In fact, I can hold it for 100 years. My children, my grandchildren can hold on to it, and then in 1,000 years, somebody can use that gold, and it's just as good as if they had dug it out of the ground that day. It doesn't decay, it doesn't rot, nothing happens to gold over time. So gold can function as money, but Bitcoin, since nobody actually needs Bitcoin, everybody
I need Bitcoin.
who owns it just has to sell it, because there's no back end user like gold. There's no jeweler who needs gold, right? There's no computer chip manufacturer.
It's like he's he's arguing against Bitcoin specifically, but he's saying crypto as a whole. It's as if he doesn't understand that other coins have different use cases, and they very much do offer services that these softwares. It's really crazy. I thought he knew a lot more than
Actor who needs to buy gold. So you always need another speculator to buy your Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. So it's a constant promotional campaign, where once you're
speculating.
You're in it, you now have to convert other people. You got to bring more people in, and that's where you get all this pie in the sky evangelism, all these promises of, all you have to do is buy Bitcoin and you're going to be rich. You're going to be rich beyond your wildest dreams. You're not going to...
Well, I could tell you, anyone that bought Bitcoin is deep in profit right now, and people that bought gold and silver because of you are not. And that's been like the last 10 years, bro. You've been wrong.
You're going to have to work. You're not going to have to get a job. That's old-fashioned. Trying to build a business and get rich slowly. Just buy a cryptocurrency, and you'll get rich quickly. All you have to do is never sell, right? That's what they tell you. Just buy it and never sell, and you'll be rich.
Is that what they tell you? It's not what I tell people.
Okay.
Look at you giggling. Duper's delight right there. Did you see that? Look at this.
That's what they tell you. Just buy it and never sell, and you'll be rich.
What a douche.
Okay, so this digital currency
He knows he's lying.
backed by gold, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. Tied to something
No, I mean, the
stable.
government wouldn't like that, because it would be a big competition to the crap they put out, their fiat currencies. But you're not going to get rich quick buying a digital currency backed by gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, because gold's price is fucking bullshit. It doesn't move.
I mean, gold doesn't make you rich. Gold keeps you rich. If you're already rich,
Okay, so then you admit it's one tool that you should have in your portfolio. Not everyone should always have all their money in the one thing that keeps you rich. You should have money out making money, Peter Schiff. You're arguing against your whole business plan and your whole existence.
you can stay
You're contradicting yourself over and over and over again.
rich by owning gold, right? You don't get rich. Gold it preserves its value. Now, I personally think gold is underpriced right now relative to a lot of other
Oh, I bet you do.
commodities, so I think there is an opportunity there. But it's not like it's going up tenfold in real terms, right? You can't make that kind of promise. Gold could go up 10
So
times.
as a financial advisor, why would you be telling everyone to go deep on something that's not going to make you a lot of money when people are making 1,000x on these cryptos? We should just bury all of our money in gold that just isn't volatile and stays the same price.
But only in an inflationary world where everything else maybe is going up 5 times. So if the price of everything else goes up 5 times and the
Kayla's just not even following this at all.
price of gold goes up 10 times,
Keto. She's got keto brain. She's just like...
well, then in real terms, gold is doubled. But, the pie in the sky promises of Bitcoin, it's going to 1 million, right? Or it's going to even a bigger number than that. That's not going to happen to gold. So you're not going to get that huge speculative element. Now, where I think there is a big speculative opportunity, and I'm positioned myself, I have a lot of my own money there, and I, encourage clients who want to speculate, it's in the gold and silver mining companies. Because I think the real value...
Wow, you really, that's your number one advice? Like, that's like the first move you make once you get gold. The next move is, oh, I should invest in the companies mining it.
Going to go up.
Like, that's your world famous advice.
Maybe double or triple in real terms. And in nominal terms, much more than that. But that's because everything else is going to go up. But I think that is going to mean these gold mining stocks are going to make a lot more money than the analysts currently believe. And so that's what's factored into their share price. But since I think everybody is wrong as to how profitable these companies are going to be in the future, the price right now is too low. So I think there is an opportunity. And I think the people who are gambling in cryptocurrencies, who think they're going to get rich, there actually is an opportunity, I think, to have an investment home run if you get into the gold and silver mining stocks. I think part of the problem now is that since so many people incorrectly perceive that Bitcoin is the new gold 2.0, they're missing out on that opportunity. And I think a lot of people, when they're valuing...
Jesus Christ. So, if we bought gold 10 years ago, instead of Bitcoin, that's a better opportunity than if we had bought Bitcoin? And we're missing out now if we stay in crypto, since crypto's in its infancy and gold has been around, like you said, for thousands of years.
In these mining stocks,
some wishy-washy shit here, man.
I think that in the future, people are going to prefer Bitcoin to gold. That's one of the reasons that these stocks are so cheap in the present.
Because they're going to prefer Bitcoin to gold because it's got far more utility.
Because people have this false vision of the future where gold is, doesn't have the monetary value that it had in the past. But that's not true. I mean, gold's future is just as bright, if not brighter, than its past. It's Bitcoin that doesn't have a future.
Okay, that's a pretty solid argument. So
is that, Michaela? Did you follow it at all? Because you've contributed nothing but stare at yourself in the screen of your camera and pout your lips.
Do you suggest people just avoid Bitcoin altogether?
Well, look, I do. But,
Peter Schiff owns Bitcoin. He's full of shit.
Jamie Dimon was, made news the other day because, JP Morgan, I guess, is,
Peter Schiff and I I'm friends with Peter Schiff on my Instagram. I don't know where she came, not Peter Schiff's wife. And she's told me some shit, that definitely, he definitely isn't as against it as much as he says he is. And he definitely owns crypto. That's been verified. So he's playing this character because it gets him attention. And it's gotten him a lot of attention over the past 10 years, especially the last 5 years. So that's why he goes out here and does this. And I feel like he's playing devil's advocate because he's not even giving a good argument. He's giving terrible argument. He's giving this argument that sounds like someone who's not an investment broker who doesn't know about anything. Like it's really crazy.
Letting their clients trade Bitcoin. And he said, look, I think it's worthless, which is true, but some of my clients don't know that. And so they want to trade it. And so
investment brokers are like dietitians, They claim to have all the answers, but most of the time they don't know jack shit but what someone wrote in some book that the government approved.
I'm going to let them. Basically, they're big boys and girls. They're adults. If they want to do something dumb,
is it dumb?
They can.
Is it dumb to have a broad spectrum of investments in your portfolio, Peter Schiff? Is that dumb?
Now, you might want to say, hey, come on, Jamie. You've
been calling these people a lot of names, Peter Schiff. You seem really upset. You seem like one of these typical salty haters whose pride and ego isn't letting them buy more crypto. That they've been wrong for so long that they just have to keep it up.
You've got some kind of fiduciary responsibility. If you're smarter than your clients and they're, doing something foolish, maybe you should, try to stop them. right? I mean, you know, like it's like the bartender saying, look, you know, my customer, you know, he wants alcohol. Who am I to say that he's had too much to drink? Well, you know, maybe your judgment is better, especially if the guy is drunk. You don't have to keep giving him more alcohol when you're the one that's sober, you know, and you got some people drunk on crypto profits, and, you know, you got, you know, the bar.
Oh, how awful. People having success with their investments. He's just simply mad they didn't get it with the currency he's peddling. He's trying to sell everyone gold.
Tender realizes, you know, what's going on. But part of his argument,
I'm shocked how awful he's doing in this interview.
So the way Jamie Dimon looks at it is, look, you know, if they don't drink at my bar, they're going to the bar next door. So I might as well be the one that makes the money. Or maybe even a better analogy would be a casino, right? He sees his clients at JP Morgan gambling instead of investing, because that's where the action is. They want to gamble. And he's like,
double talk.
Well, if I don't let them gamble here, they're going to take their chips across the street and gamble in another casino. And so why not, you know, they're going to do it anyway. And so, you know, why not let them do it? And so, you know, in my mind, look, people should be free to make their own mistakes. And, you know, and I'm fine with a lot of young people. Ultimately, look, young people who are into crypto, you know, I think that they're going to learn a very valuable life lesson from the money they lose. And
absolutely, I agree. I've lost a lot of money and I've learned a lot because of it. But that's kind of what life's all about, isn't it, Peter? Learning from your mistakes.
That's the time to learn lessons losing money, when you're young, because you have a lifetime to make it back, and you have a lifetime to learn from those mistakes. It's the people that are, you know, older, that are putting their retirement and IRA money and stuff like that. This is a problem.
No, it's not.
And
they're the smartest investors you've come across, Peter Schiff.
I don't like.
You should be taking their advice.
The way a lot of people in the mainstream media, in the investment community, have now jumped on this bandwagon.
Have they? Because mainstream talks a lot of shit.
And are really encouraging people to gamble in these cryptocurrencies by kind of validating them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the advertising money. I mean, I'm very critical, let's say, of a network like CNBC that has totally legitimized Bitcoin, but I think it's because they're beholden to their advertisers. Because I think their number one advertiser is...
Who isn't, dude? What news station isn't?
Crypto-related companies. I mean, you can't watch CNBC every single...
You mean crypto's so successful that they have companies that own parts and do advertising with major mainstream news? That doesn't make any sense. You say crypto's worthless. You say it's pointless. How could there be so much success?
Commercial break.
If it's such a piece of shit product, like you're saying, if no one needs it and no one uses it.
I'd say half the commercials, if not more, are for cryptocurrency-related investments. And so that's what's driving all the content on the network. They're playing to their advertisers. And so they're really sacrificing their audience in order to placate the advertisers. Because the advertisers want to advertise there because they know that it's like a giant infomercial where you have all of the on-air personalities hyping up Bitcoin all day long. And the only guests that they invite on, really, are pro-Bitcoin.
Oh, are you mad, Peter, because you haven't been getting invited back to the mainstream news shows? Is that what we're figuring out here? Is it the Mr. Gold guy that's been wrong? He's not getting as many gigs as he used to?
Every once in a while, they'll bring on somebody who's kind of bearish.
Oh, yeah. Michaela looks like she really understands.
But then everybody will argue with that person. But when the bull comes on, who's bullish about Bitcoin, they're all like, yeah, they all agree. And the most ridiculous thing about it is a lot of the people who are pumping Bitcoin will say the same type of things that I say about the Federal Reserve and fiat money and inflation, except when I said them on CNBC, everybody laughed at me and said, well, that's ridiculous. But when the Bitcoin people say it, oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, because you're a used car salesman, Peter Schiff. You go on there shamelessly plugging your obsolete money. Sure, gold's fine. Have a little bit. But don't think that it's the end-all, be-all, and you're going to get rich off of it and be rich the rest of your life. Oh boy.
Somehow the arguments are valid as long as they lead you to Bitcoin. But if you say the same thing, but then you don't punctuate the comments buy Bitcoin, right? Then, they disagree.
No one uses gold, bro. That's why they laugh at you. How are you going to get millennials to use gold? Please.
And if I said you have to buy gold, they would say, oh, Peter, you're just saying buy gold because you have a gold business.
Yeah!
I've never heard once any of these crypto people who come on CNBC, I've never heard one of these guys say, well, aren't you just bullish because, you're in a crypto business and your business depends on people buying crypto, and so aren't you just talking your book? They're never accused of doing that, but I never went on.
That's because people believe in cryptocurrency, Peter, and they don't need to. Gold is obsolete. No one uses gold. That's why you're laughed at. Crypto is the future. People are using crypto. That's why you're not taken serious, and that's why you're not getting called back to these shows anymore, and that's why when you used to get laughed at.
They're air.
Which you just admitted.
Of being accused of talking my book, right? So,
and now you see the root of all of this disdain Peter Schiff has for crypto. It's not his intellectual side. It's he's butthurt.
It's a complete double standard. So
because he wasn't smart enough to see it when it came out and buy it early and be a proponent on it early on. He's upset that he didn't do it first. So he's got to keep this death mission against it.
I do think that at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits from a lot of people who lose a lot of money. And
to who? To decentralized software programs, Peter Schiff? That's the whole point, is that there's no one to sue and that you know what you're getting into when you get into it, Peter Schiff. How do you not know this? Lawsuits.
See how that all shakes out.
You gonna sue Satoshi Nakamoto, Peter Schiff? You gonna sue a guy who doesn't exist? You gonna pull the plug on something that doesn't have a plug? The government's gonna regulate something they can't touch? You're not making any sense.
But again, it's a free market. People need to.
Is it a free market? We don't have crony capitalism here.
They want. I mean, I don't think fraud should be legal. I'm not an anarchist. I believe in certain criminal activity, and I think to the extent that some people are being fraudulently induced into buying into crypto, and they can prove that they were defrauded, and maybe they'll be able to recover some of their losses.
Oh, please.
Through the court system.
Does that mean that I can sue you because you got me to buy silver at fucking $38 and it's like $17 now? Does that mean I get to sue you?
But most people are going to get what they deserve. Most people are not being defrauded. I mean, they're just delusional. I mean, they're believing, a pipe dream. I mean, it's the easiest thing. I mean, get-rich-quick schemes have been around for a long time. I mean,
I'm not rich yet. I've been involved with crypto in a long time. It hasn't been very quick for me.
The crypto community.
I don't know anyone. I know a few people that have gotten rich off of it, but it didn't happen overnight. Crypto goes in 4-year cycles, and it might take 2 or 3 cycles for you to get rich. So that's 4, 8, 12 years? That's not very get rich quick. You keep saying that, but I don't think you understand what you're saying or the application you're using it in.
Invent that. And it's unfortunately with the way the economy is right now, with all the government, all the regulations, it's a lot harder to achieve wealth legitimately and honestly now than it was 50 or 100 years ago when we had a lot more economic freedom, and it was a lot easier to start a business because you didn't have to deal with all the government red tape and all the regulations. And so now so many people are basically left with the only hope, basically a lottery. like I'm going to buy Bitcoin like I'm buying a lottery ticket and just hope that I get rich by winning the lottery. Except they think that they're going to win for sure, right? I mean, most people buy
that how it is,
tickets
bro?
realize that it's a long shot, that they're probably going to lose, but they buy the ticket anyway, just in case. But all the people who are actually buying Bitcoin, they're 100% certain that they've got the winning ticket. So that's what's going to make it particularly difficult.
False comparison.
When reality sets in and everybody wakes up to, to that reality, that all these dreams were just dreams and they're not coming true.
Okay, so 2 questions. One, do you have any guess about what the time frame for Bitcoin is before people start realizing that might not have been a good idea? And then
clearly, I have no idea about that. I mean,
clearly,
I've been talking about Bitcoin being, fool's gold and tulip mania and Ponzi pyramid, since it was first brought to my attention when it was under $10. So, I mean, clearly, I don't know how big the bubble's going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have
at least
to
you're
say
admitting
that
it.
At this stage,
at least he's admitting it.
When I first learned about it, I mean, hardly anybody knew about it. I mean, they didn't talk about it on television. I only knew about it because of the libertarian circles that I was in. So I knew about it early on, but now everybody knows about it, and so I have to believe that there's not much left on the upside. I mean, could it double again? Yeah, sure, it could, but that's not that.
Could gold double again?
That's nothing compared to what it's already done. And that's not what people expect.
So now all of a sudden he understands market caps. So wow.
People are not buying Bitcoin because they think it's going to double. Because a lot of other assets can double. There are a lot of assets that are going to do a lot more than double. So if all you think you're going to get out of Bitcoin is double, there's no reason to take the risk. Because Bitcoin can go down 80, 90, 99% much quicker than a lot of other assets can. So the risk reward wouldn't be there. And I don't think
never happened.
People are buying it because they think it's going to double. It's because they think it's going to 10x or 20x.
Anyone now who's buying crypto understands, or at least is close to understanding market caps, and that altcoins will do far better. Small cap, if you know anything about these markets, small cap coins, clearly, if a coin is 1 cent, it's doubling by going to 2 cents. Where if Bitcoin's 60,000, it's going to have to, it takes a lot more to move a big cap than a small cap. So Peter's argument is again contradicting itself, because he wasn't talking about as if crypto, he was talking of as if all cryptos were the same earlier. Now he's saying that Bitcoin has a market cap that's going to keep it from moving that much. And then he's completely ignoring altcoins.
Or 50x. And that's why they're there. And I think the odds of that happening are astronomically low.
Yeah, well, again, you have no idea. You even just admitted it.
I don't even know if Bitcoin can double. I mean, everybody seems to think it's a sure thing. It's going to hit 100,000. When everybody thinks something's going to happen, it usually doesn't.
Damn, Shifts and Moon Boy is saying it's going to double 120 by the end of the bull run. That sounds great.
So it probably won't even get there. I mean, let's see if it makes a new high. I mean, it could do that, right? The high was like 65,000. We're not too far away. We're 55,000.
See, he wants to talk about it in a good light. He wants to debate with people. I mean, he wants to, you can see, he's naturally going towards his speculation and his prospecting and all that stuff. But his ego, his ego and his persistence with this nonsense position he has over the years won't let him.
56,000. So maybe it'll make a new high. Maybe not. But, I don't know. But I have a feeling that when gold and silver...
I don't know, but I'm going to come on your show and talk about it.
...finally start to move up. That
finally!
...the pin that pricks the Bitcoin and crypto bubble. I think the fact that gold and silver haven't really made a big move...
Dude is delusional.
...move is creating or helping to feed the argument that it's because Bitcoin has replaced gold, and that's why gold's not going up.
Absolutely has. No one is buying precious metals now. I mean, I need to not talk like Mr. Schiff here. More people are buying crypto than they are buying precious metals. Guaranteed. And, if you think that somehow all those people are going to start buying precious metals at some point, you're delusional.
But I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think the reason that gold is not moving up,
almost simply for the fact you can just buy Bitcoin on your phone. You have to go someplace, see other humans to buy gold. These awkward situations where there's lots of money around and not a lot of security, and
is because the big money.
And then you don't even know what you're buying. You have to trust the person. Crypto is not like that. You know what you're getting.
Does not
verifies itself.
Believe inflation is the threat that it is. I think everybody is waiting for the Fed to fight inflation, to get tighter monetary
I'm not waiting for that, bro. Sorry.
Policy, and everybody assumes.
Man, Peter Schiff likes saying everybody a lot. He's said everybody at least 25 times, 30 times so far. Blanketing statements. Look at this face. He's so mad.
That tight monetary policy, or at least less loose than what we got now, and tightening, is going to be bad for gold because they think that gold is the inverse to interest rates. That if rates are moving up or monetary policy is tightening, that the price of gold should be falling.
Look at Michaela. Oh boy, that's so funny. This is Michaela Peterson is a unlikely podcaster. She's simply big because of her father, and so she's trying to just be this universal podcaster without actually having the talent of being a podcaster and building a foundation of followers that are following her because of her podcast. But there's people are simply following her because her dad's smart. And so, you get one-sided interviews like this where you're not learning anything from her, and she's not really asking the right questions to get Peter Schiff to really teach anybody anything. He's just babbling word salad.
And so traders are factoring in that future decline that they expect into the current price. And that's what's stealing gold's thunder. It's ignorance of inflation and what's going to happen. It's not that
ignorance of inflation. I would say more people understand inflation now than at any point in time. And as I said before, gold and silver are obsolete. They they have room in your portfolio, but crypto's the future, bro.
People are buying Bitcoin instead of gold. I think that there are some people who are buying Bitcoin, but they're buying Bitcoin instead of other speculative assets. Maybe they're buying Bitcoin instead of a stock, a penny stock, or whatever they.
Or they're buying Bitcoin instead of investing in the gold mining companies that you hold stock in.
Would have gambled in, but I think that once gold really starts to shine.
Peter knows he missed out. He could be filthy rich right now if he got involved in crypto. But since he didn't, and he's seeing that crypto is taking money from his stocks that he has now, that's why he's so mad. It's not because crypto is a bad investment or gold is better or gold is bad or crypto is better. It's because Peter Schiff is upset because he didn't make the right moves.
As people start to realize,
when he's supposed to be this famous analyst who foresees these things, he missed this one, and that's simply why he's here doing this video.
That inflation is not only not transitory, but that it's going to get much worse, and that the Fed is not going to be able to do anything about it. And so then people are really going to need a hedge against inflation. And they're going to buy gold, they're going to buy silver. That's what they've always done. those commodities make sense.
That's what they used to do, bro.
As an inflation hedge because they're commodities themselves.
Every single bank in the world right now is saying that Bitcoin is the best hedge against inflation. But Peter Schiff says it's not.
That have real uses. You can't hedge inflation by buying something that is not itself a commodity. Because what makes gold an inflation hedge is that gold is a metal. And so you can hedge the price of other metals, copper, nickel, zinc, with gold. Gold is a commodity. So you can hedge the price of coffee, the price of cotton,
as you can hedge against other altcoins and stablecoins in the blockchain field.
Lumber. There are other commodities, and
we have other commodities too, bro.
These commodities historically have relationships based on their use cases. One against the other. But Bitcoin has no use case. It's not used for anything, and so there
absolutely has a use case.
There's no way to know, how much Bitcoin there should be for, a bushel of wheat or a barrel of oil or
It's called barter, bro. You trade. Two people make a deal. It's the oldest thing the oldest transactions in history.
Or a pound of copper. I mean, it's nothing because you can't do anything with it. There's no.
And it's funny because gold has a digital price, and gold's price is changed by governments and associations deciding what it's priced and market, like alleged stock market, what do you mean? You don't have any real basis for that either with your gold and your silver.
Value it. So it can't be an inflation hedge. So when people really want an inflation hedge and gold starts to respond, I think that could be a big problem for the Bitcoin narrative. And, once it really starts to fall, it's a whole new dynamic. Because right now, the narrative is...
Look at him just trying so hard to say something that clicks with people, but he's just not able to do it.
Buy and hodl because you're going to get rich because it's always going to go up. And the fact that people don't want to sell is what can keep the price going up. But what happens when new money stops coming in and the old money wants out? Well, the old money can't get out.
Why would old money want out? Why would you want to sell your gold ever? Obviously, you're going to hold that forever. Like, you're acting as if your currency, your stuff isn't the same. It's all the same. It's all markets, dude.
The new money doesn't come in. And so that's why the whole thing can implode, right? It's just on itself. It's just the whole the bottom drops out and you get a complete crash because only a few people wanted to get out. If there's nobody who wants in, just a small volume can sink the whole thing.
Okay, one of the values I think this is my last question, but one of the values I think people find in something like Bitcoin is that it's decentralized.
Oh, look at that face. At least I feel like she probably posted to her fan base, what questions should I ask Peter Schiff? Because she's asked some good questions. I don't think she understands the questions she's asking, or else she would rap back and forth a little bit more. But she has asked good questions, and Peter's pissed. Look at that face. He's like, great. So this should be interesting, hearing Peter Schiff explain how decentralization isn't as cool as we think it is.
Oh.
Again, that's part of the pipe dream about, we want to get away from the governments. We want to...
Pipe dream? You don't understand how decentralized protocols works, dude. It is a software program floating around on the internet with no humans attached to it. No way to take it down. No way to get into it and change it. How is that a pipe dream? See, Peter Schiff thinks that all these cryptos are regulatable by the government, which they are not. They aren't. I don't give a shit if the government has a supercomputer. They can't do it.
and get away from the banks and the financial institutions.
Yeah, DeFi is how we're getting away from the banks right now.
Share that. I mean, it'd be great to get
Not in the future, right now.
away from that. But as I said earlier, the government doesn't
It
want
would be
to
great to get away from that. We are, Peter. That's why we're promoting crypto.
get away from it. That's where all these new regulations are going to come in. You look at like a company like Uber, right, which, is a real business with a real service. But one of the values that Uber had was it got around all of the government rules and regulations that made taxi cabs so expensive, right? So Uber comes in and arbitrages that by saying, hey, we're going to get around all the
So what you're explaining right now is crypto coming in and getting rid of, offering a better product than what has been the norm.
government rules and regulations. Same thing happens with like an Airbnb. Hey, we're going to get around all the government taxes and other regulations on hotels, and we're going to pass on that savings to the consumer. And so that's kind of what Bitcoin was trying to do. We're going to pass on the savings of escaping all this government scrutiny, all this government regulation. Well, you can't do that for long, because the government is not going to allow that to happen. They're not just going to let that. You can see that happening as all these governments are trying to crack down on like the Ubers, trying to make them comply with all these labor laws and taxes and all this stuff that is going
And yet Uber still exists, and it's still pretty cheap.
to reduce their appeal, because now they're going to have to deal with these higher costs, and they're going to have to pass those higher costs on to their customers. And now, hey, Uber's not as good a deal anymore. It's not saving me all this money
Still better than the old way.
like it was before. So,
But his analogy is another false comparison. Uber is a business that has to run by the government's regulations. Bitcoin is not. It's decentralized. Michaela doesn't get this. But and Peter, that's why Peter's getting away with it.
I mean, that's part of the allure of Bitcoin.
He came on this show because he knew he'd be able to say whatever he wants, and she wouldn't say anything because she's brain dead because she's on keto.
Part of the sexiness of the story, and that's why it really appeals to the libertarians, the free market people. But it's gone so much beyond that now, because there are a lot of people that are buying Bitcoin that don't even believe in limited government. You have a lot of socialists that are buying it. They're just buying it because it's going up. I mean, everybody is buying it because they want to get rich. I mean, look, I'm talking about these guys on CNBC.
Isn't that the whole point of investing, Peter Schiff?
They love the Federal Reserve. They love the fiat monetary system. They can't get enough of it. Yet they love Bitcoin too, because it's going up and because the advertisers are
Is that true?
showering them with money. So now it's gone beyond
Can't have both, Peter Schiff?
that. I mean, yeah, you have to try to philosophically come up with some kind of reason, right? You can
Philosophically?
listen to a guy like Michael Saylor, talk about Bitcoin. And
How about
if you just,
objective?
Listening, he's on and on and on. He's all the time touting it because, he's got so much invested in it. But, it sounds intelligent if you don't actually pay attention, because he uses a lot of big words. And as long as you don't stop to, actually
Michaela does this big goofy smile every time the camera goes on her.
dissect the meaning and to realize
She's way into her whole thing right now.
that it's complete nonsense that he is spouting, that nothing actually makes sense when you actually dissect what he's saying. It's just it's a load of crap, right? But it's just designed to just, get people to buy Bitcoin and never sell it. And, so that's what's happening now with it. But again, once the dream turns into a nightmare, I mean, this happened with, the dot-coms, it happened with real estate, you can come up with all kinds. I talked
And
about
you're still rich because of the dot-coms.
Beanie Babies a lot. I mean, people thought they were going to get rich on Beanie Babies. And of course, once you get into a bubble and you have that mindset, you don't see any reality. I mean, you get this, case of cognitive dissonance, and nobody can rain on your parade. And that's, it becomes a cult. It becomes a religion for people. And, nobody can tell them that they're wrong. And because, there's such a built-in bias once you get involved, and you kind of have this whole dream about the way your life is going to be, because you found this this fountain of youth, right? This monetary fountain of youth, and you're going to have this fantastic life. You don't want to hear anything about hey, it's not true. Just psychologically, your whole brain now is going to tune out anything that is going to contradict what you've built up in your mind and what you think is going to happen. And I think to a lot of people, what they think is, if I give up, if I sell, I'm just going to miss out. It's like that's the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And that...
You don't FOMO by selling, Peter. You FOMO by buying late.
Is, even more powerful than actual fear, right?
Dude doesn't even know what he's talking about. And what? Everyone has to sell everything at once? There's no such thing as dollar cost averaging? This guy's acting like he doesn't know anything about investments.
It's like, the greed and the mentality.
He's using... Crypto is simply an investment. He's using anti-investment rhetoric about Bitcoin, yet he's an investment advisor pushing gold, which is an asset that has underperformed in the last decade.
Where if I can't sell because my friends won't...
the fact that he's on Mikhaila Peterson's podcast tells you a lot. He's not doing MSNBC and CNN and Fox anymore. He's doing rando podcasts, anything he could get on. Mikhaila Peterson, he knew he could take advantage of her.
Sell, and I'm going to be the idiot that sells, and they're all going to get richer than me.
Idiot, stupid, idiot, stupid. All these ad hominems, man. Jeez.
And so, but that emotion is going to eventually be replaced by the fear of losing whatever they've got. But I think Bitcoin is going to have to drop precipitously before that emotion kicks in. So people are already probably going to lose 70, 80% of their money before.
So what? What if they're up 400, 500, 600, 1,000%? Who cares if they lose 70 after that, Peter Schiff?
Or they start getting worried about losing the rest. Of course, they should be worried about losing it right now, but that's not going to happen.
Maybe we are. Most people I know have been taking profits. Most people I know take profits all the time. They go in and out and in and out. Like, you're assuming everyone is simply holding and everyone's simply a noob, which there are a lot of noobs, but you're assuming it's all of us.
Happen, but once they lose most of it...
Peter Schiff thinks everyone is involved in crypto is an idiot. Obviously, he said this several times.
Then they'll be worried about losing what they got left.
Okay. That was very entertaining. Thank you, Peter Schiff. That makes sense.
You were asleep the whole time, girlfriend.
That makes sense. Where can people find you online if they want
That makes sense? Yeah.
to find you?
Clueless. So, yeah, like I thought, Peter Schiff's got nothing. He's got nothing but word salad and his desperation. I mean, he basically told us all what's happening in his life. He's not as popular as he used to be. He's having to do these little podcasts. And he's super mad that crypto is digging into his pockets and that he didn't get involved earlier. It's super obvious. And this was just another gleaming example. I think she's got some guy on after this that's pro-crypto, but he's going to smoke Peter. I mean, I don't think that they're not talking together, but I'm sure he has great stuff to say. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.